Hi, this is the first time I've ever done this before, so you're going to have to forgive me whether I'm sounding like a complete idiot, not really too sure where I'm looking at, what I'm doing. But anyway, this is to talk about the Dermaroller that some of you have used in the past, but for others it's a completely new concept to think about. Microneedling, I've been doing that now for some years, as many of you know, originally in the roller form, but now with a more electrical format in the clinical treatment. However, there was always the option for people to do microneedling or microrollering from home using much smaller needles than we would normally use in a clinical environment. The principle's the same. We're using the two aspects of using a roller to cause a slight trauma on the skin, as many of you know, which we do with peels or other kinds of treatments. That is controlled, but stimulates the skin to regenerate, to produce new cells and to bring fresher new cells to the surface of the skin. The second point is that it will cause little microchannels, and these are very tiny little channels in the skin that stay open for roughly 15 to 20 minutes after the treatment and allow for the penetration of ingredients to go a little bit deeper into the skin. Obviously the home one doesn't go in quite so deeply, but that makes it safer. But at the same time still means that your products that you're using can have more effect and a deeper effect on the skin at the same time. The products that you use are quite important, more so when we do the clinical ones, because they really are going deeper into the skin, so they need to be ingredients and products that are acceptable for the skin. At home ones, they're not going in quite so deeply, so it's not so much of a concern, but it's still trying to get the best benefit from the products that you're putting in with the joining up of the forces of causing that trauma. So I'm going to go through a very simple procedure so that you can understand how to use the roller at home safely and as comfortably as possible. I'm not going to lie, you're going to get some feel from this. It will feel a little bit prickly. It shouldn't be painful. It does take a few times to use it to get used to it. And once you've got used to the technique, you'll find that you really like the results afterwards. The skin will look a little bit more plump. It will probably be a little bit pink. And it will feel quite tingly, but you'll feel that you're actually doing something to your skin that's going to have a really good effect. So I'm going to show you. The roller comes in this plastic container here once you've taken it out of the outer casing, and you will keep your roller in this to keep it clean. It comes just like this. You will see when you open it, if you roller the roller, that there's lots of tiny little needles on there. And when I mean tiny, they are tiny, so nothing to be scared of. So I've prepped my skin at the moment now, so I've cleansed it, I've done a double cleanse, and I've also used, some of you will already know the product, this is the stem cell rebuilding complex. We put this on to prepare the skin, so that as soon as the trauma has started to be caused by the roller, this is already in the skin, and it's going to help rebuild and to make sure that the skin heals nicely. And then that will also be the product that we put on immediately afterwards. So you've got your roller here, and you can use it all around the face, and you can use it around the eye area, although the pressure will be slightly different. I'm just going to do a few little parts for you so that you can understand the principle behind it and what will make it maybe feel more comfortable. You can use it down on your neck area again, and where you start is going to be completely up to you. The forehead, because it's a little bit bony and not very fleshy, is probably going to feel a little bit more tender, although some clients say that that's an area that they're not that bothered about. I know a lot of my clients are often worried about this area here, and that you want to get a little bit more plumping and a little bit more lift there. So obviously, again, this is an area that you might want to concentrate on. The format of which you do it then, just do it in the same way, whether you kind of start on your neck, move up, move around your face and come down around the other side, that's up to you. Whether you start on your forehead, come down around the eye area and then go downwards on your face in segments, again, whatever feels right for you. If you find it a little bit uncomfortable to start off with, you might just want to focus on those areas that you are particularly concerned with. So if it's your neck and décolleté, maybe concentrate on that one. If it's around the eye area, then you could just do that. It does get better and it does get easier with practice, and you can use it several times a week. I would recommend, if you're going to try and use it and have an ongoing effect, you try and use it at least twice weekly. Ideally, as well, you can incorporate this into a facial, and for those of you who already have microneedling with me, you know I like to use the Clinicare mask immediately after, because that cools the skin down. It puts loads of really good things into the skin, and also will take advantage of the fact that we've got these open channels, and that the ingredients in the mask will get that little bit deeper into your skin. So as I know some of the areas, I'll focus on the areas that I know a lot of clients are particularly concerned about, and then show you the method that we actually use. Now, the pressure is quite important, so you wouldn't want to place it on the skin and really dig it in, because that way you can scratch the skin more, and it can be a lot more uncomfortable. But neither do you want to just lightly do it over, because you're going to feel nothing at all, and it's not really going to cause that little bit of trauma that we want, and get those little microchannels going. So it is a question of, you may need to build up. You might want to start it a little bit lighter to start off with, and then go a little bit deeper as time goes on. So I find that when I'm doing it on myself, pulling the skin gently and keeping it taut does help. Then place the roller on, and if you imagine you're going to go in lines, so that you make sure that you're covering an area. So if you start on the jawline, for instance, now you will just go back about 6 times and then lift off. It's important to lift, because if you were to just move to the next area, you're likely to scrape your skin and scratch it, and we don't want that to happen. So you might want to practice on a hand or something first, but you would do it in exactly the same way each time. So you just put it on a little bit firmly, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and lift off. It will twirl a little bit. And then whether you want to go above or go in a line, I tend to prefer to work in lines, then you would move back and lift, and lift, and lift. And then I'm just going to go above, now it just feels a little bit scratchy. It's not painful, particularly not on this area. You may not be able to see, but this is just coming up a little bit pink now, which would be completely expected. If you're working around this area, again, you may just want to put it tighter. Now you can go over the lips. I'm going to warn you now that that's a little bit more uncomfortable, but again, for those of you who are a little bit worried about the lip area, you can work around the lips as well. You may find that on the lip, for instance, above here, you're going to go in a different direction, so you'll be going up and down in that direction. If also the other area you're bothered about is here, that you want to get that little bit of lift here on the cheek, same principle, just pull behind. And a little bit above. Now it'll get a little bit more tender as you come in here. Now around the eye area, you will not put the same pressure as you have put down on the lower face. Obviously this area is a lot more sensitive. The skin is a lot thinner. And it can, if you did it really roughly and you really gave harsh treatment, you potentially could cause a little bruise. It wouldn't be a major thing, but we always try and avoid that around the eye area. So again, you would pull that nice and firm. Now how you do it, whether you do it in that way or that way, I tend to still prefer to do it this way, but it'll depend on how much space you've got for the roller. So I'll be doing it a little bit lighter. And if you want to come up here, this will feel a little bit tender. Okay, you can also do this upper area here, but again, just be very, very careful going over that area. But just over the brow, so that you'll get a little bit of the skin covered here and a little bit above. Those of you who are worried about here, about frown lines, then just do the same there. And if you wanted to, you could lattice over there as well. And then you would move on to the forehead. So I personally do find the forehead a little bit sensitive. Again, whether you do it across this way or down that way is entirely up to you. That's just a personal preference. Now, when it comes to the neck, again, having that little bit of tension on the neck, again, whether you go this way or that way doesn't really matter. You just need to, as you're looking and you'll see the pinkness coming up, you'll kind of make sure that you haven't missed any areas. The temptation might be to go over it a second time. I definitely wouldn't recommend that. And it's not going to particularly improve the treatment in any way. If you've done it correctly the first time going over, you shouldn't need to do that, and you don't want to over treat the skin. So if you come down onto the neck, you probably want to pull this fairly tightly. And then now the neck can feel a bit more prickly, but actually you usually can tolerate this fairly well. And right back here, because we want it to, sorry, I should have taken my earrings off, shouldn't I? Okay, so probably not the most professional demonstration. This is my first video. I almost threatened to do it with him being my model and doing it himself, but he wasn't up for that. Now, the cleansing of your roller afterwards, it's really important that you keep this clean, because what we don't want is that you're going to be spreading any germs or infection or anything else like that. So there's two ways of doing it. If you run it under hot water for several minutes, if you've got any surgical spirit, Milton or anything else like that, you can make up a diluted amount in some water, not too strong, and then slosh it around in that. But otherwise, just run it under the hot water and make sure that you've, if you've got a spare toothbrush or a little brush that you can use, that you can keep specifically for this, then you can just very lightly run it over the roller while it's under the water, just to make sure that you've got any grease or anything else that might be on the skin. Hopefully all of that with your cleanse and using your other stuff will be off. And then put it into your case. You rest it in like so. And I would leave it for a half an hour or so to dry. Because sometimes when people have put it in and left it a little bit wet and then put the case straight on, it can kind of get that musty smell afterwards from the water. So I just normally like to leave it, let it dry for a little while, and then just pop it in its case. You can use these between anywhere, if you really take care of it, maybe up to 40 times, but they say roughly about 30-35 times. Important to keep it clean, and important to just check on the roller head when you look at it that it looks completely clean each time that you're using it, and the plastic looks completely intact. If you start using it very frequently, you are going to make sure that you're not using it over the kind of amount of times that it would normally. Clients have reported back, you know, they can get quite good use out of it for several months, but you do need to make sure, because after a while the plastic will start to break down, and the needles will become dirtier, because we're not actually able to properly sterilize them. So it's important not to I did have someone who had a child who got hold of it and was rolling it on the floor, and then they literally got only a few uses out of it. But you take care of it, then it should last you quite a good few months. The more you can work up doing it, the better. Now, once you've finished your treatment, as I've said, you could put some of the stem cell rebuilding complex on there. That may sting a little bit when it goes on, because you've opened the channels, and that can sting. Anything that you put on would be likely to sting. If you're someone who has got very ultra sensitive skin, then I would recommend putting on after it the Cebelia Extreme Care, or one of your soothing products. So if you're an acne rosacea sufferer, for instance, or you're someone with a very high intolerance to things, and you want something that's going to calm it down very, very quickly, then you can use this. bear in mind, it is going to be, we've deliberately caused this trauma to the skin to make it regenerate. And so therefore there is going to be a feeling. I can feel my skin tingling now. And if I was to put this product on, it would exacerbate that just for a few minutes. That's perfectly okay. That is what we are trying to achieve with this treatment. So I hope this is useful. If you want to give it a go and you want to contact me and talk it through, Lauren is putting some blogs on there, so it will actually list the products and things that you might want to use as a facial treatment to do. I would recommend that you probably do it of an evening so that you can let it all settle down before you might go out for your walk in the day, and then you don't have to worry about putting sunscreens or anything else on. But if you do it in the daytime, then do make sure that you've fully protected your skin before you go outside. Doesn't matter whether it's sunny or anything else, just make sure you've got your sunscreen on as well. Please call if you've got any questions. I hope this is okay and it gives you at least a start to be able to thinking about using the home roller system. And it will be Dermaroller have only got 0.2mm needles, which is the smallest that's done, and that's not a bad place to start, because it you'll know that you've done something, but it will allow you to, I think most of you will be able to do it and be able to do it several times a week. If it's somebody who's even got acne or acne scarring, so long as it's not active, there's no pustules or spots, and you're not spreading any bacteria around the face, then you can use it for maintaining your skin. It's ideal for all ages, so even for the young who are doing it for just perking up their skin or whatever else, or if it's for skin rejuvenation, for lines, wrinkles and firmness, all of those things can benefit from the treatment. So stay safe, keep well, and maybe I'll speak to you soon. Bye.